You know the feeling, right? You work hard, you save what you can, you generally play by all the rules. And yet, you still catch yourself lying awake at night with that silent, gnawing anxiety about your future. You just feel financially stuck, even though on paper you're doing everything right. Well, if that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place today. Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to expose the 5 invisible financial leaks that are quietly but aggressively draining your wealth. Picture this for a second. Somewhere in America right now, there's a guy making a massive, ridiculous payment on a flashy car he just bought to look successful. Everyone in his life can plainly see the mistake, and honestly, deep down, so can he. But here's the crazy part. He is not the one in real trouble. The person in actual trouble lives 3 doors down. This quiet neighbor, he's got no car payment, zero credit card debt, and a super reasonable house. He does literally everything the internet told him to do. Yet, he is quietly losing more money than the guy in the driveway will lose in his entire lifetime. And he has absolutely no idea, simply because nobody ever sends him a bill for it. So, before we jump into what these leaks actually are, we need a complete reframe on how we even look at a financial mistake. You see, a mistake isn't just what you spend today. Like, a $400 mistake isn't just $400 missing from your pocket right now. It is those $400 plus everything those dollars would have earned, plus everything those earnings would have earned for the entire rest of your working life. It's really all about what your money would have become. Now, just to make sure we're totally anchored in reality here, let me lay down the ground rules for the math we'll be using today. We're measuring these costs over a standard 35-year working life, so age 30 to 65. For things like mortgages and term insurance, we're going to use a 30-year window, since that's how long they typically run. And most importantly, every single figure we look at assumes an 8% gross annual return compounded monthly. Now, obviously that isn't a promise, but it deliberately sits nicely below the historical long-run return of the American stock market, just to keep our models super realistic. Keep these rules in mind because the numbers we're about to see are massive, and they apply directly to you. Okay, let's dive right into this with the absolute cheapest trap on our countdown. Principle 1, free money. Let's talk about the good old employer 401k match. Imagine someone earning a totally decent salary and their company offers a standard match. Let's say it's $212.50 a month deposited right into their account in exchange for literally nothing but their participation. But life happens. Rent goes up, the car suddenly needs work, and one evening, they log in, pause that contribution just to free up some quick cash, and promise themselves they'll turn it back on when things settle down. But as we all know, things never really settle. That paused $212.50 a month over a 35-year working life at our 8% return snowballs into $487,450, nearly $500,000 just surrendered without a single serious conversation or a signature. Nothing bad happened on the day that slider was moved to zero. The consequence simply shows up 35 years later, addressed to a version of you who can't do a single thing about it. But what if I told you I have a shorthand? Which brings us nicely to our second trap. Principle 2, unbundling protection. Now, this trap is super tricky because it arrives wrapped in the comforting language of being a responsible adult. You sit across a nice mahogany desk from a smiling professional, you want to protect your family, and you are sold a permanent life insurance policy, one that lasts forever and builds this neat cash value you can borrow against. It feels like the ultimate grown-up move, right? But secretly, it is bleeding your wealth dry. That permanent policy might cost you, say, $480 a month because it's trying to do 2 totally different jobs, funding a death benefit and building a cash value investment. The alternative here isn't going uninsured. The alternative is buying a simple, incredibly cheap term insurance policy that covers the exact same high-need years, when your kids are young and you have a massive mortgage, for about $45 a month. You are essentially paying one company a premium to do 2 jobs that it frankly does not do equally well. So here is the absolute kicker. If you take that $435 monthly difference and just invest it yourself over those 30 years, it yields $648,036. That is well over $500,000 completely lost. Not because you were reckless or out partying, but simply because you bought protection and investment awkwardly bundled together instead of just keeping them separate. All right, let's keep moving. Principle 3, breaking debt cycles. Let's shift our focus back out to the driveway for a second. We all love to judge the flashy car payment, but honestly, everyone focuses on the wrong thing here. The mistake isn't buying a car you like. Obviously, you need transportation. The true wealth destroyer is the permanent payment. The real mistake is never actually being without a car payment since the day you turn 23. Just look at this compounding cycle of debt. Right as a loan is about to end, say around year 4, the dealership conveniently calls you up. The trade-in offer sounds super flattering, the new monthly payment is exactly the same, so you sign. But cars lose their value fastest in those earliest years. More often than not, you actually owe more than the car is worth when you trade it in. And that negative equity, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. It gets rolled right into the next loan. You start the brand new loan already completely behind, trapping yourself in a cycle that compounds in the exact wrong direction. The disciplined alternative is simple, even if it's not sexy. Buying a reliable used car and driving it literally until it stops. If you do that, the gap between the permanent car payment and the reliable used car is roughly $450 a month. Over 35 years, that turns into $1,032,247. Yep, $1 million just for the privilege of never actually being finished paying off your car. Okay, now we've reached the fourth and by far the largest visible mistake. Principle 4, the house trap. This visible mistake is wild because it happens in a room full of smiling professionals who are actively congratulating you. You save up, you clean up your credit score, and a bank hands you an official approval letter telling you what you can quote unquote afford. You walk in there with a perfectly reasonable number in your head and you walk out with a vastly larger one. But listen to me, the approval letter is just a ceiling based on your mathematical probability of default. It is not a reflection of your actual day-to-day financial life. If you buy at the absolute top of that bank approval, you are totally ignoring the hidden scaling costs of a larger property. A bigger house isn't just one bigger mortgage bill. The property tax scales up, the insurance scales up, the maintenance costs scale up. Every single bill associated with that property gets permanently larger. And that difference, the gap between the house your finances actually supported and the house the bank happily let you borrow for, that can easily be $1,150 a month in totally unrecoverable costs. Over a standard 30-year mortgage, that compounds to an astonishing $1,713,913. And honestly, the worst part? You're going to spend the next 30 years being congratulated by your friends because the house went up in value, making you completely blind to the nearly $2 million you sacrificed to get it. So let's just pause for a second and look at what happens when you actually fix these things. You log in and restore the 401k match. You buy term insurance instead of permanent. You break the car trade-in cycle. And you buy the house you can actually afford rather than the one the bank approved. These are just 4 simple, one-time decisions. They don't require you to go beg for a raise. They don't require you to start some exhausting side hustle. But together, they effortlessly claw back $2,247 a month. Now take that recovered money, add it to a standard baseline savings rate, invest it all in a broad index fund, and leave it completely uninterrupted for 35 years. Do you know what happens? It creates a staggering $9,452,263 baseline for your retirement, nearly $9.5 million. And that's just by plugging the leaks that were probably entirely invisible to you when you clicked on this explainer. But here's where we have to pivot sharply. It builds a little tension, doesn't it? Because what if you did everything right? What if you were that quiet neighbor who fixed all 4 of those mistakes and you successfully built that massive $9 million portfolio? Well, my friend, you are still completely exposed to one final, utterly silent trap. Principle 5, silent parasites. Let me introduce you to the ultimate invisible drain. Let's say years ago you did the really responsible thing and you hired someone to manage your money. The arrangement is totally legal, completely standard. It's a 1% assets under management, or AUM fee. You never ever receive a physical bill for it in the mail. You can't feel it leaving your account. A percentage is just quietly skimmed off the top before your statement is even generated. It looks so tiny, right? Just 1%. But across 35 years, that little 1% fee aggressively consumes $2,112,442 of your accumulated wealth. Think about that. It is the single largest leak we have discussed today. It literally costs more than the house, the car, the insurance policy, and the matched money combined. And here is the cruel structural irony of this invisible fee. You are not being punished for your mistakes here. You are actually being charged for your discipline. That 401k match you restored, well, it made your balance larger, so the fee took more. That permanent car payment you finally escaped, it made your balance larger, so the fee took more. Every single good decision you made enlarged the balance that the fee attacks. The better you got at managing your own financial life, the more it actually costs you. Which really brings us to our final thought for today. The truth is, wealth isn't just what people see parked in your driveway. It is the future you build by fixing the leaks you can't see. The decisions we cover today, fixing your match, changing your insurance, finally keeping your car, they just take a quick login, a spare afternoon, or a simple no thanks at the dealership. But that invisible 1% fee, That is a decision you are actively making every single day you choose to ignore it. So ask yourself right now, how much of your future are you truly willing to sacrifice just to avoid looking at the math today? Take an hour this weekend, find out what you are really paying. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will definitely catch you in the next one.